Today's video is inspired by a movie called First Blood, or some of you may know it, Rambo. Since I have the knife of Rambo, I thought I'd make a series of videos and test some of the skills that John Rambo used in the movie First Blood. I'm only going to be using the Rambo knife and those skills to make what he made and test it, see if it's actually usable, if it can do what he showed it did, or if it's a complete piece of junk. In the movie First Blood, Rambo uses his iconic Rambo knife, lashes it to a pole, and makes a spear that he uses to effectively hunt and kill a wild boar. Today, I'm going to try to do the same, to see if I can make a boar spear from the Rambo knife. Now let's compare the Rambo knife to a boar spear, and I'm going to use the Coldsteel boar spear as an example. So what they have in common is, of course, a spear has a spearhead which will have a sharpened side on both sides. The Rambo blade has that. It's sharp on the back and, of course, obviously the front. Now a spear is going to come to a spear point, and the Rambo knife has kind of a clip point. That may throw off your thrust a bit, whereas a more centralized spear point is going to give you a better, more cleaner thrust. Also on a boar spear, to prevent the boar from charging down the shaft of the spear, the boar spear is going to have a cross guard that comes out to kind of stop the boar in its tracks. And the Rambo knife also has a much smaller cross guard, but it does have one. Another similarity, and I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but they're both made in Taiwan. The properties that you'll look for when selecting a spear shaft: you want something that's 6 feet tall. That'll give you your standoff distance for your spear. And since this is a thrusting spear, you want something that's a bit thicker than you would for a throwing spear. That'll give you your strength and also a good grip. So maybe something a bit smaller than this so that you can get your hand around it. You'll also want something that is fairly clean. It doesn't have a lot of branches. It doesn't require a lot of work. Stay away from resinous saplings and things, because it's just going to make a big mess, and they usually have a lot of branches that you have to clear. You'll want something that's alive, so you're going to want green wood and not dead wood, because green wood is going to provide you strength and flexibility that you'll need when you're using your spear. Now I'm going to use the Rambo survival knife to see if we can effectively create a shaft for our spear. If you read the description for the Rambo knife, apparently this is made not so much for cutting, but for getting through barbed wire. But we're going to use it for a saw and see how effective it is. That's a lot of work, and I don't seem to be getting very far. Well, we have a big blade, and big blades are usually good choppers, so we'll try that method. It's getting loose, so we'll just tighten it back up and continue chopping. Now that we have the spear shaft cut, it's time to lash our knife to it. And I'm going to be doing this two ways. First the Rambo way, and then my way. The first way we're going to attach the knife to the shaft is by simply attaching it with its handle in place using some 550 paracord. So we're going to do our lashing by starting off with a timber hitch. We'll do some diagonal lashing, round lash down the shaft, and then finish it off with a clove hitch. Now that we have it lashed on, we're going to give it a test and see how secure it stays. We're going to test the spear lashed onto the shaft this way with the handle still on the knife. I'm going to test it on this piece of standing deadwood and see how well it works. Not so good. Although this is the greatest weakness of this type of survival knife, where you only have a small bit of tang screwed into the handle and a little securing nut on it. That nut can come loose and pop off, and then your entire blade can come out of the handle. And that is the greatest weakness, but in this case, where we're building a spear, it may also be a benefit to us, and I'll show you how. Instead of attaching the handle of the knife to the spear shaft, I'm going to use the ability to easily remove the blade itself and the hand guard or the cross guard from the handle of the knife, and I'm going to cut a small split, kind of a shallow split, into the end of the spear shaft, insert the bit of tang, and try to secure it in there by binding it and lashing it in, and we'll see how effective that is compared to our last method. Use the saw blade to try to cut ourselves a little groove, a little split. Flies are just eating me alive. This is why in the movie First Blood, one of the first things that Rambo does is cover himself against the elements and against the insects. They're so sharp and so effective. I think we have a split deep enough to insert the small tang on the knife blade. Now that I've wedged the tang of the knife into the end of our shaft, I'm going to lash some cord around it and try to keep it nice and tight so that we keep the blade in the spear, and also so that our split doesn't continue on down the spear shaft. Now I've had to remove the hand guard or the cross guard in order to get enough of the blade into the shaft where I thought I could make it secure, so it kind of loses one of the features of the hog spear. I've lashed the blade in just using a timber hitch, round lashing, and just finished off with a clove hitch. I put some stop knots in, so it's similar to how we did it before, except without the diagonal lashing. And the diagonal lashing wasn't very effective anyway, because the handguard is not physically attached to the blade. Now let's test this method and see if it's more effective than the previous method against this old tree. Much better. It holds into place, I get good penetration, and I can remove the blade without losing it into the tree. I have a lot more confidence using the spear with the Rambo knife set up in this manner. I think it's going to hold up, and I'm not going to lose my weapon. Now, making the spear using the Rambo knife itself was kind of a chore, not as effective as a good sturdy wilderness blade, bushcrafting blade, but it did get the job done after a while, after a bit of frustration, so you can do it. I hope you enjoyed this first video in my Rambo series. I'm going to be testing a few other things that he did in the First Blood movie and see what kind of results we get. If you have any questions, any comments, any ideas, just leave them below. If it's something cool, I'll give it a try, as long as it's not too dangerous. Thanks for watching. It's just like Rambo. This old man's gonna climb up in this tree stand, wait for a wild hog to come below, and jump down, get him with my spear. And then again, you don't live to be an old man if you do stupid stuff like that.